Chapter 215. The next morning, Lu Ming walked out of his room. This time his target was the Divine Wind Valley. 2 months later, if he wanted to enter the plane, he would definitely encounter the top geniuses of the 10-direction sword sect. He had to increase his strength as soon as possible. Now there was still a long way to go for the Fire Force. 2 months was far from enough. Even if he cultivated in the Earth Force cave, it was still not enough. It was better to focus on comprehending the Wind Force. If he could reach the small success stage of the Wind Force, his battle strength would increase explosively in a short period of time. The Divine Wind Valley was located in a huge valley north of the Star General Hall. That's right, it was not a valley but a valley. Among them, the valleys were densely packed and crisscrossed. There were many of them. If one looked down from the sky, they would discover that these valleys seemed to have been carved out by a peerless expert with a chaotic blade. In these valleys, violent winds howled and hurricanes swirled. Some of the hurricanes could even tear steel into pieces. It was extremely terrifying. However, it was also the best place to cultivate wind attribute martial skills and comprehend the wind force. When Lu Ming arrived at the entrance of the Divine Wind Valley, he could hear the howling of the wind inside. Lu Ming was not the only one who came here. At the same time, there were a few young men who came with him. Entering the Divine Wind Valley to cultivate is 10 spirit crystals a day. How many days do you need to go in? At the entrance of the Divine Wind Valley, a burly man looked at one of the young men and said coldly, 10 spirit crystals for a day, isn't that too expensive? The young man shouted, if you think it's expensive, then leave quickly. No one is begging you to come here to cultivate. The burly man glanced at the young man coldly. Then he ignored him and looked at the others. The others were helpless and took out their spirit crystals. I need to cultivate for 10 days. A young man took out 100 spirit crystals and handed it to the burly man. Half a month for me, no, 10 days. Another young man took out 100 spirit crystals with a pained expression. The burly man's face darkened as he took them one by one and registered them. What about you? How many days do you need? The burly man looked at Lu Ming. Look at this. Lu Ming moved his hand, and the golden token given by Wuxia appeared. When the burly man saw the golden token, his face suddenly changed. He revealed a gentle smile and said, please come in. You don't need to pay spirit crystals. Lu Ming put away the token and smiled faintly. It seemed that this token was really useful. It's not fair. One of the young men shouted. Shut up. The burly man shouted coldly, causing the few young men's expressions to change drastically. They shut their mouths and dared not speak, looking at Lu Ming with envy. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He touched his nose and strode into the Divine Wind Valley. Whoosh. Once he entered the Divine Wind Valley, he could feel a terrifying whistling sound. A gust of wind blew towards him, making Lu Ming's body feel like it was about to float. Lu Ming circulated his true qi and his body flashed. His body became as immovable as a mountain. No matter how strong the wind was, it could not move him. I just entered the valley and there's already such a strong gust of wind. This is indeed a good place to cultivate wind attribute martial skills and comprehend wind force. He did not stop and continued to walk forward. Soon he reached the end of the valley. On his left and right, there was another valley. The gust of wind was even stronger. Lu Ming did not even think about it, and chose the side with the strongest gust of wind. Just like that, Lu Ming turned left and right and walked through 7 or 8 valleys. Here, the gust of wind was very strong and terrifying. The strong gust of wind even condensed into wind blades in the air. The wind blades were like blades as they constantly collided with Lu Ming's body protecting true qi, causing ripples to appear on Lu Ming's body protecting true qi. What a terrifying wind blade. The wind blades here are already equivalent to a first-level martial master's full-strength attack. With so many wind blades, it was as if a large group of first-level martial masters were constantly attacking Lu Ming. The true qi in Lu Ming's body was rapidly depleting. Not only can I comprehend the wind force here, but I can also cultivate the ancient shield technique with half the effort. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Then 2 ancient shields condensed in front of him. Clang, clang. The wind blades constantly bombarded the shields, but the shields did not budge. The power is not enough. I'll go deeper. Lu Ming continued to walk forward, and the wind blades became stronger and stronger. It was equivalent to a second-level martial master's full-strength attack, followed by a third-level martial master, a fourth-level martial master. After Lu Ming walked through more than 10 valleys, the power of the wind blades here was equivalent to a first-level martial master's full-strength attack. It was equivalent to a first-level martial master's attack. How terrifying was this? Even steel would be instantly torn to pieces. Most importantly, the wind blades here were not just one or two, but densely packed and unceasingly bombarded him. Clang clang. The wind blades bombarded the ancient shield, causing the sound of iron striking and sparks to fly in all directions. The ancient shield in front of Lu Ming trembled nonstop. Especially to guard against the wind blades coming from all directions, 2 ancient shields were not enough. Lu Ming's mind was completely immersed in it. He constantly controlled the ancient shield to fly up and down, blocking the wind blades while carefully sensing the changes in the wind around him. This was equivalent to Lu Ming cultivating the ancient shield technique while comprehending the wind force. Cultivating like this would allow one to improve at a terrifying speed. However, the consumption of Lu Ming's true qi was also extremely large. Even with Lu Ming's true qi that far exceeded that of an ordinary person, he had no choice but to leave after cultivating for an hour. If it was an ordinary person, it would be impossible for them to cultivate like this. After leaving, Lu Ming comprehended the 3 Dao palms while recovering his true qi. After recovering his true qi, Lu Ming entered the valley again, and continued his high-intensity cultivation. A month later, the ancient shield technique broke through and entered the 3rd level. As for the wind force, his progress was also extremely fast. Although it had not reached the small success stage, it was not far away. As for the 3 Dao palms, he had not succeeded in cultivating it. However, Lu Ming felt that it would be soon. After cultivating for a month, I'll go out and rest for 2 days. Following which, Lu Ming left the Divine Wind Valley. Not long after returning to his residence, Ming Peak, Pearl, and Myeongchang found Lu Ming. Tianyan, everyone says that I'm a martial arts madman. I think you're even crazier than me. You're cultivating all day long and I can't even see your shadow. When Ming Chung saw Lu Ming, he called out in a loud voice. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. Big brother Tianyan, you're definitely going to enter the Blood Ant secret realm this time, right? Ming Peak asked. Blood Ant secret realm? Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. Then he had a flash of inspiration. Chapter 216. Big brother Tianyan, don't you know? You're indeed a cultivation maniac. Ming Feng curled his lips speechlessly before continuing. The Blood Ant secret realm is a plane jointly controlled by the imperial family and the Shifang sword sect. It opens once every 3 years. In a month, it will be the end of the 3 years. The Star General Hall has already given the order that anyone above the 3rd level Martial Master realm, including 3rd level Martial Masters, must participate. As for those below the 3rd level Martial Master realm, if their battle strength has reached the 3rd level Martial Master realm, they can also participate. Currently, many 2nd layer Martial Masters are desperately cultivating, hoping to reach the 3rd layer Martial Master realm and enter the Blood Ant secret realm. After all, this is a great opportunity and no one wants to miss it. Big brother Tianyan, don't you know about it? After Ming Peak finished speaking, he curled his lips again. As expected, it's the same thing as Huaqi, Lu Ming said in his heart. Of course I've heard about it. Of course I'll participate. Lu Ming smiled. In the Blood Ant secret realm, cultivators above the 7th layer Martial Master realm will not be able to enter. At that time, with brother Tianyan's strength, you will definitely reap a great harvest. However, you still have to be careful of the Shifang sword faction because every time, the disciples of the Shifang sword faction will wantonly hunt down the geniuses of the General Hall. Pearl said in a deep voice. The Shifang sword sect better not provoke me. Otherwise I'll kill whoever comes. Myeongchang coldly snorted, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he asked. Those above the 7th layer Martial Master realm really can't participate. Yes, I've also heard about it. It's said that the secret realm is a newly born plane, probably around 10,000 years old. The laws of heaven and earth are not perfect. The higher the cultivation, the greater the rejection. Those above the 7th layer martial master realm will be rejected once they enter. Pearl explained. I see. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. If those above the 7th layer martial master realm couldn't enter, no matter how talented or strong the disciples of the Shifang sword sect were, he wouldn't be afraid. Tianyan, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Come, let's spar. At this moment Miangcheng shouted. He stared at Lu Ming, full of fighting spirit. Sure. Lu Ming said with a smile. Then they found a spacious area. A few minutes later. Tianyan, you pervert, I don't want to fight with you anymore. I don't want to spar with you anymore, you pervert. Miangcheng screamed miserably. His nose was bruised and his face was swollen. He looked at Lu Ming with resentment. Lu Ming was speechless. He thought to himself, you're the one who insisted on sparring with me. Ming Peek and Pearl were dumbfounded. This was the first time they had seen their big brother being beaten up so badly and screaming so miserably. He even shouted that he wouldn't spar with Lu Ming in the future. This was something that had never happened before. Don't, brother Miangcheng. I've gained a lot from sparring with you. Let's continue another day. I'll go easy on you. Lu Ming said. My stomach hurts, I'm leaving first. Miangcheng almost cried. He clutched his stomach and ran away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Behind him, Lu Ming, Ming Peek, and Pearl were dumbfounded. Is this still my big brother? Did I get the wrong person? Ming Peek muttered. Did you get the wrong person? Or is someone too perverted? Pearl rolled his eyes at Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. During this period of time, the cultivation atmosphere in the General Star Hall was extremely dense. Everyone who had hopes of entering the Blood Ant secret realm was bitterly cultivating, hoping to increase their battle strength and gain more in the Blood Ant secret realm. Lu Ming rested for 2 days and returned to the Divine Wind Valley. He found that there were many more people cultivating in the Divine Wind Valley. In the crisscrossing valleys of the Divine Wind Valley, one could see a figure every once in a while. Lu Ming went to the place where he cultivated last time. There was no one here. No one could cultivate here. This was exactly what Lu Ming wanted. No one would disturb him. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the Blood Ant secret realm to open. Lu Ming left the Divine Wind Valley a day in advance. The next day, he and Miangcheng arrived at the martial field of the General Star Hall. All the students of the General Star Hall who wanted to enter the Blood Ant secret realm had to gather here. Soon, more than 120 people had gathered at the martial field. This was the total number of people entering the Blood Ant secret realm. Every one of them had a cultivation between the 3rd and 6th level of the martial master realm. Swoosh. A few old men appeared in the air. I believe everyone knows a little about the rules this time. I won't go into the details. Now, I will talk about the most important points. One of the red-haired old men spoke. His aura was turbulent, and his voice was like a bell. First, the Blood Ant secret realm opens once every 3 years. This time, it is time for the blood ants to refine their eggs. The eggs of the blood ants are the best material to refine the blood refining pill. Every 3 eggs of the blood ants can be refined into a blood refining pill. As long as you hand over the eggs of the blood ants to the imperial family, you will receive half of them. That is to say, as long as you hand over 6 eggs of the blood ants, the imperial family will give you a blood refining pill. Blood refining pill. It's actually a blood refining pill? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, revealing a blazing light. Before a cultivator awakened their second bloodline, there would be a process of accumulation. What was accumulation? It was the accumulation of bloodline energy. The stronger the bloodline energy accumulated, the higher the grade of the second bloodline awakened. As for the blood refining pill, it was a treasure that could accumulate bloodline energy. Lu Ming finally understood. The treasure that Huaqi had mentioned before was the blood refining pill. Not only Lu Ming, but the eyes of everyone present, including the geniuses who thought they could break through to the martial ancestor realm, were filled with a blazing light. As long as they obtained 6 eggs of the blood ants, they would be able to exchange them for a blood refining pill. Second, I must warn you, you must be careful of the disciples of the Shifang sword sect. Every time the secret realm opens, the disciples of the Shifeng sword sect will hunt down the disciples of the general hall. Killing and plundering are not prohibited in the secret realm, so you must be careful. The red-haired old man's voice sounded again, warning with a solemn expression. Humph, so what if they are geniuses of the Shifeng sword sect? Why would I be afraid of them? Some of the students were very confident as they spoke. All right, that's all I want to say. The rest is up to you. Now let's go to the Blood Ant secret realm. As soon as the red-haired old man finished speaking, a few screeches sounded in the sky as 8 large wind eagles descended. These 8 wind eagles were much larger than the ones that Lu Ming had seen in Dongke City. As the wind eagles descended, the crowd soared into the sky and leaped onto their backs. Following the 8 screeches, the wind eagles soared into the sky and headed north. The Blood Ant secret realm was located in the north of the imperial capital, about 20,000 miles away. It was said that the Blood Ant secret realm originally belonged to the imperial family, but the Shifeng sword sect took over a portion of its authority and requested to split the Blood Ant secret realm equally with the imperial family. Every 3 years, both sides would send their disciples into the Blood Ant secret realm to harvest the eggs of the blood ants. The eggs belonged to whoever obtained them. Chapter 217. The Decimo sword sect was extremely powerful and had countless geniuses and masters. Even the mystic essence sword sect was inferior to them, let alone the imperial family. Therefore, every time the Blood Ant secret realm opened, most of the blood ant eggs were taken by the Decimo sword sect. The imperial family could only get a small portion. The wind eagle was extremely fast, and it only took half a day to cover the distance of 20,000 miles. This was a rather desolate forest. There were bare stones everywhere, and only a few trees and weeds grew sparsely here and there. The wind eagle landed on a slightly flatter area. The red-haired old man and the others jumped down first. The others followed suit. The Decimo sword sect is not here yet. Let's wait here, the red-haired old man said. Everyone nodded. Swoosh! At this moment, more than a dozen figures jumped high and landed on the 10 stone pillars on one side. They jumped on the stone pillars and sat cross-legged. Lu Ming saw the person on the outermost stone pillar at a glance. It was Bai Qi. It's the top 10 experts of the outer palace. Is this the gold pillar? It must be. But that Bai Qi still has the face to jump on it. Miangqing and Tianyan are much stronger than him. How thick-skinned. There was a burst of discussion. Gold pillar? Lu Ming was puzzled. Brother Tianyan, there's nothing special about it. It's just an ordinary stone pillar. It's called the gold pillar because it's easier to see the secret realm from the top. Only the strongest can climb it every time. It's a symbol of strength. Miangqing explained. Oh, I see. Lu Ming nodded and then looked at the opposite side. There were more than a dozen stone pillars, but no one jumped on them. That's the Decimo sword sect's territory. Those ascendant pillars belong to the Decimo sword sect. Miangqing said. Lu Ming suddenly understood why no one jumped on them. Then he glanced at the people on the stone pillars. These people were the top 10 experts of the outer palace of the Star General Hall. Bai Qi, you're really shameless. How dare you occupy a seeker pillar? Get down here right now. Miangqing looked at Bai Qi and shouted. His voice rang out from afar, causing Bai Qi's face to turn red. Miangqing. Bai Qi gritted his teeth angrily, but he didn't come down. Ha ha ha, Bai Qi. Do you think you're an expert just because you're holding on? How shameless. Forget it, I won't fight with you. If you want it, I'll give it to you. Miangqing casually waved his hand and sneered. Ha ha ha. The rest of the audience also burst into laughter. Bai Qi was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Lu Ming smiled. He had no interest in this kind of battle for empty fame. Shaking his head, he casually found a place to sit cross-legged and wait. 10 minutes later, several bird cries resounded through the barren mountain. 3 huge golden birds appeared in the sky. These 3 huge golden birds spread their wings and covered the sky. They were more than 100 meters long and were extremely terrifying. Their wings were golden as if they were made of gold. A powerful aura spread out, and was as heavy as a mountain. Martial ancestor realm demonic beasts. Lu Ming's face changed. These are small golden rocks. It said that they have the bloodline of the divine beast Golden-Winged Rock. The Decimo Sword faction has such a strange beast, and there are 3 of them. The number 1 sect of the Burning Sun Empire is really terrifying. Some of the students in the Star General Hall exclaimed in shock. The small golden rocks cried loudly, and their voices pierced through the clouds and landed. Haha, Hua Feixiong, you're here early. A loud laugh came from one of the small golden rocks in the middle. Then a few elders stepped down from the sky. Then 3 young men with swords on their backs leaped down from the 3 small golden rocks. These young men and women were all dignified and had extraordinary auras. Each of them was like a divine sword, and their sword chi pierced through the clouds. There were more than 360 people. So many people. The faces of the people in the Star General Hall changed. The red-haired elder's face was grave as he said, "They're just a few minutes early." The leader of the 10 Directions Sword faction was a skinny old man. At this moment, his gaze swept across the group from the Star General Hall as he chuckled and said, "There seems to be a little more people this time around. Be careful not to let all of them die inside. Otherwise, the people that your Star General Hall recruited with great difficulty will suffer heavy losses." The red-haired elder's face darkened as he said coldly, "Akira no Ji, you don't have to worry about this." "Haha, is that so? Then let's go and prepare together." Akira no Ji sneered. "Let's go." The red-haired elder waved his hand, and the other 2 elders followed him and flew into the depths of the barren mountains. Akira no Ji led the elders of the Decimo Sword faction into the depths of the barren mountains. They disappeared in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! Whoosh! After the elders left, the figures of the Decimo Sword faction flashed and dozens of figures leaped onto the observation pillars. Obviously, these people were the top experts of the Decimo Sword faction. Although their cultivation was at the 6th grade martial master realm, the aura they emitted was extremely terrifying. "Brother Tianyan, do you see the person on the first stone pillar?" Miangcheng asked Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked over. It was a handsome and cold young man in his early 20s. He wore a white swordsman's robe and carried a palm-wide sword on his back. Just sitting there casually, he gave off an extremely dangerous aura. Yes, even Lu Ming felt threatened. "Is this person famous?" Lu Ming asked. "This person is called Yang Zitian. He is an extremely terrifying genius of the Decimo Sword faction. When he was at the Martial Master Realm, he was ranked first on the Decimo Sword faction's bronze list. When he was at the 9th grade Martial Master Realm, he successfully comprehended force. When he was at the 9th grade Martial Master Realm, he killed many martial grandmasters. You must be careful when you encounter this person," Miangcheng said with an extremely solemn expression. There were very few people who could make Miangcheng so serious. "The first on the Decimo Sword faction's bronze list?" Lu Ming whispered. The Decimo Sword faction was the number 1 sect of the Blazing Sun Empire. The first on the bronze list was definitely not to be underestimated. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with fighting spirit. Of course, other than this person, the Decimo Sword faction has a few other people who are also extremely terrifying, Miangcheng said. "Ha ha ha, there are quite a lot of people in the General Hall this time. 3 years ago, there were less than 100 people. This time, there are 120 people." At this moment, an ear-piercing voice sounded from the Decimo Sword faction. "Junior brother, you're wrong. What do you mean by 120 people? In my opinion, it's just 120 trash." Another voice sounded. "Ha ha ha, senior brother is right. It's 120 trash. That's right. That's right." There was a burst of laughter from the Decimo Sword faction. "What did you say? Who's the trash?" Someone in the General Hall was angry and shouted. "Io, you're even angry. Am I wrong? 3 years ago, 98 people entered the General Hall, and only 23 came out. If they're not trash, what are they?" A young man with a crooked mouth from the Decimo Sword faction walked out and looked coldly at the people in the General Hall. "This time, you have more than 120 people. Don't all die in there." Chapter 218. The crooked-mouthed youth from the Decimo Sword sect looked at the people from the General Hall with disdain. "Damn it! How dare you look down on us? The people from the general hall gritted their teeth and clenched their fists. What are you looking at? Come at me if you want to fight. The crooked-mouthed youth looked at the people from the general hall with provocation. Disdain, blatant disdain. The people from the general hall were furious, but no one stepped forward. After all, the reputation of the Decimo sword sect was not just for show. What a bunch of trash. The crooked-mouthed youth continued to provoke them. Damn it, I'll fight him. Myongcheng could not stand it anymore, and was about to stand up. Brother Ming, wait a minute. He's deliberately provoking us to test our strength. Why fall for it? Lu Ming patted Myongcheng and said. Myongcheng sat down. Junior brother, I don't think you need to say anything. They're just a bunch of cowards and trash. No matter what you say, no one will dare to fight. A youth from the Decimo sword sect shouted. A bunch of trash. The crooked-mouthed youth shouted. You've gone too far. Today, I'll have a taste of the Decimo sword sect's skills. Finally, someone from the general hall could not stand it anymore. He shouted and strode out. It's Mo Gang. He's going to fight. Mo Gang is a 6th grade martial master. He's ranked in the top 20 in the outer hall of the general hall. With him fighting, we can see the strength of the Decimo sword sect's disciples. Mo Gang walked out, and the disciples of the general hall began to whisper. Finally, someone with some guts. How about this? I'll let you have 3 moves. I won't fight back for 3 moves. The crooked-mouthed youth looked at Mo Gang with contempt. I don't need you to let me have a go. Take this. Mo Gang roared and a mountain-splitting axe appeared in his hand. Waving the mountain-splitting axe, Mo Gang slashed at the crooked-mouthed youth. The mountain-splitting axe slashed through the void and the space trembled like waves. If the axe slashed down, even a mountain would be split in half. Great! The people of the general hall cheered in their hearts. They were waiting to see how the crooked-mouthed youth would let them have 3 moves. But in the next moment their faces froze. The crooked-mouthed youth spun his sword and drew a circle. An invisible gravitational force was generated, and Mo Gang's battle axe was bounced off the circle. Bang, bang, bang. At the same time, Mo Gang took 3 steps back. How is this possible? Everyone in the Star General Hall was shocked. What a powerful defensive martial skill, Myongcheng said with a solemn expression. Profound grade upper grade martial skill, 2nd level. Lu Ming muttered in his heart. He could see the level of his opponent's martial skill and its maturity. 2 more moves. I've said it before. I won't fight back within 3 moves. The crooked-mouthed young man sneered disdainfully. I don't believe it. Mo Gang roared and swung his axe again. This strike was even more powerful, but it was useless. It was still deflected by the crooked-mouthed young man's sword. How could this be? Could it be that this crooked-mouthed youth is a top genius of the 10 Directions sword sect? Someone from the Star General Hall shouted in disbelief. They suspected that the 10 Directions sword sect had purposely sent a genius to attack them. You're thinking too much. Let me tell you, I'm nothing in the 10 Directions sword sect. There are many people stronger than me. The crooked-mouthed young man said calmly. Impossible. Take my 3rd move. Mo Gang roared and his bloodline erupted. The muscles on his muscular body bulged as he swung his axe at the crooked-mouthed young man. This axe, Mo Gang used his full strength, erupting with his strongest move. Break. Mo Gang's eyes turned red. Break? Do you think you can break it? The crooked-mouthed young man sneered. His battle sword spun, and his body was covered with rings of sword light. Clang. Sparks flew in all directions as the battle axe chopped down on it. As for Mo Gang, his body once again staggered backwards. How could this be? How could this be? Mo Gang roared in disbelief. You piece of trash. Chi. The sword light flashed like lightning. Retreat. Someone from the Star General Hall shouted. However, it was too late for Mo Gang to react. Puchi. The sword light pierced through Mo Gang's throat. Mo Gang roared and fell to the ground. Mo Gang was killed. The people from the Star General Hall fell silent with a grave expression. You still say you're not trash. Now the truth is in front of you. If you're not convinced, you can come up and fight. The crooked-mouthed young man looked around. The people from the Star General Hall were humiliated. The other disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect looked at the people from the Star General Hall in disdain. What a bunch of trash! The crooked-mouthed young man looked around and his gaze landed on the 10 pillars. You get down here. The crooked-mouthed young man suddenly pointed at Bai Qi, who was on the 10th pillar. Bai Qi's face stiffened. He squeezed out an ugly smile and cupped his fists. Senior brother, what can I do for you? His attitude was humble, hoping to gain the other party's favor. This made the others unhappy. Unfortunately, the crooked-mouthed young man did not buy it. He shouted, Who do you think you are? Do you think you can call me senior brother? Get down here right now. I'm taking your Realm Seeker pillar. What? You want the Observer pillar? Bai Qi was shocked and his face turned ugly. Don't go too far. The Observer pillar has been allocated between the Imperial family and the 10 Directions sword sect since ancient times. It represents the honor of the Imperial family, and we can't give it to you. On another Observer pillar, a young man in a yellow robe shouted angrily. This young man was a member of the Imperial family. What honor! Today, you have to give it to me even if you don't want to. If you don't, I'll beat you until you give it to me. The crooked-mouthed young man sneered. Bai Qi almost cried. He was in a dilemma. If he did not give it to the Observer pillar, he would have to face the disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect. If he gave it to the Observer pillar, he would be destroying the Imperial family's honor. Everyone in the Star General Hall would despise him, and he would never be able to raise his head in the Star General Hall. At this moment he was filled with regret. If he knew this would happen, he would not have been so thick-skinned as to fight for the Observer pillar. Bai Qi, if you give it to me, you'll be a sinner of the Star General Hall. No one in the Star General Hall is afraid of death. At most we'll fight. If we can't win, we'll die. I'll support you spiritually. Ming Cheng yelled in an unkind manner, pushing Bai Qi one step further into the fire pit. At this moment, Yang Cheng almost laughed out loud. I'll support you spiritually too. Lu Ming also shouted. Support your sister. Who wants to support you spiritually? Bai Qi roared in his heart. Lu Ming and Miang Cheng were obviously gloating over his misfortune. Please enlighten me, senior brother. Bai Qi had no choice but to bite the bullet and cupped his fists at the crooked-mouthed young man. Looks like you want to compete. Then let me see what you're capable of. I know you're one of the top 10 experts in the Star General Hall. The crooked-mouthed young man sneered. Suddenly he moved and pounced at Bai Qi. White Snake Dragon Palm, Dragon Transformation. Chapter 219. A white dragon roared and pounced at the youth with a crooked mouth. Clang! With a sword hum, the crooked-mouthed youth's sword chi was extremely sharp. He slashed out with his sword and directly cut off the white dragon's head. Bai Qi's expression changed as he continued to attack with his palms. White Snake Dragon Palm, 10 dragons in one palm. 10 dragons danced in the air. Sword roaring in the heavens. The youth with a crooked mouth swung his sword, and his sword chi collided with the white dragon. Boom! Boom! After 10 consecutive explosions, the white dragons were defeated one by one. Kill! The youth with a crooked mouth swung his sword and a dazzling sword chi slashed at Bai Qi. White Snake Dragon Palm, double palm power. Bai Qi roared as he swung his palms again. Roar! The white dragon roared and formed 20 white dragons that pounced at the youth with a crooked mouth. After a period of hard work, Bai Qi's martial arts had improved, and he could form 20 white dragons. He wanted to take revenge on Miang Cheng and Lu Ming, but now he was forced to use it. Is this your limit? How disappointing! The youth with a crooked mouth roared as he merged with his sword and soared into the sky. The white dragons were defeated wherever the sword chi passed. Bai Qi screamed as his body was thrown back, and fell to the ground heavily, coughing up blood. Swoosh! The youth with a crooked mouth moved and landed on the Observer pillar, where Bai Qi was. Haha, from now on this Observer pillar belongs to the Shifang sword sect. The youth with a crooked mouth laughed. Damn it, get down! The royal disciple from before roared. Hey, give up your Realm Seeker pillar then. At this time, another disciple from the Shifang sword sect rushed out and pounced on the royal disciple. Boom! Boom! The two of them engaged in a fierce battle. This royal disciple was stronger than Bai Qi, But the Shifang sword sect disciple was also very terrifying. In just a dozen moves, the royal disciple was sent flying while vomiting blood. Another observer pillar was taken by the Shifang sword sect. How can they be so strong? Is this the prodigy of the Shifang sword sect? The people from the Star General Hall thought in despair. The prodigies on the observer pillar from the Shifang sword sect had not made a move yet. Just a few prodigies with unknown rankings had defeated 2 of the top 10 prodigies from the outer Shifang sword sect. And it was a one-sided battle. This shocked the people from the Star General Hall and their morale. The difference was too great. If he entered the Blood Ant mystic realm, how would he be able to fight against the other party? And the Star General Hall's prodigy? What top 10 masters? They're all trash. I think I'll sweep them all away. That crooked-mouthed young man was incomparably arrogant. He disdainfully swept his gaze over the other 8 of the 10 great experts of the Star General Hall. The 8 prodigies faces his mouth. Young the Shifang sword sect. Even if they had the confidence to defeat the crooked-mouthed youth, they were afraid that the Shifang sword sect would send someone stronger. That would be troublesome. Shifang sword sects. It's Shifang sword sect. He had just joined the Star General Hall, and did not have much of a sense of belonging. No matter how much the Shifang sword sect despised the Star General Hall, he had no interest in making a move. His main purpose here was to obtain the blood ant egg, and exchange it for the blood refinement pill. He did not want to get into trouble for no reason. Don't be arrogant. I have someone in the Star General Hall who can defeat all of you. At the side, Bai Qi suddenly shouted. Everyone was stunned and looked at Bai Qi. They did not understand why Bai Qi suddenly became so aggressive, and dared to talk to the Shifang sword sect like that. Kid, are you looking for trouble? The Shifang sword sect looked at Bai Qi. Bai Qi gritted his teeth and said, I'm telling the truth. No matter how strong the Shifang sword sect is, you can't defeat this person. Who are you talking about? Tell him to come out. The Shifang sword sect's disciple shouted. It's him. Bai Qi suddenly pointed at Lu Ming. Swoosh. In an instant, everyone turned to look at Lu Ming. There was a cold smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. This Bai Qi actually wanted to use someone else to kill him. He deserved to die. It's him. His name is Tianyan, and he's a peerless genius of the Star General Hall. He'll definitely kill you within 10 moves. Bai Qi shouted at the Shifang sword sect. Kill me within 10 moves? Ridiculous. I think you're crazy. Well, open your eyes and watch carefully. Let's see how he'll kill me within 10 moves. The Shifang sword sect sneered, and then looked at Lu Ming. He pointed his sword at him and said, Kid, come out and fight me. The corners of Bai Qi's mouth curled into a sneer, and his eyes flashed with complacency. He secretly admired himself for dragging Lu Ming into the water with just a few words. Let's see how you'll die against the Shifang sword sect. Bai Qi sneered. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, and he slowly got up. Although he didn't want to cause trouble, he wasn't afraid of it either. Idiot. This was the first sentence that Lu Ming said to the crooked-mouthed youth. What? What did you say? The crooked youth thought that he had misheard. Idiot. That idiot is obviously using you to deal with me. How can you see through such an obvious thing? If you're not an idiot, then what are you? Lu Ming scolded as if he was scolding a child. The crooked-mouthed youth's face suddenly turned ashen. His crooked mouth became even more crooked with anger. He roared, You're courting death, brat. Bastard, you're dead. I don't care what the reason is. You're dead because of what you said. That idiot was right about one thing. I only need 10 moves, no 3 moves to kill you. Lu Ming said coldly. Not far away, Bai Qi was gnashing his teeth. Lu Ming called him an idiot left and right so smoothly that he almost vomited blood. Tianyan, you dare to be so arrogant in front of the Shifang sword sect. Let's see how you'll die. Bai Qi roared in his heart. Kill. The crooked-mouthed youth roared, and his killing intent exploded. He couldn't bear it anymore and charged towards Lu Ming. Sword whirled. The crooked-mouthed youth used a killer move right away. The dazzling sword chi slashed towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled faintly. The demon-banishing spear appeared in his hand and swept it out. Boom. As the spear swept out, the space trembled violently. The air was suddenly blown apart, making a terrifying sound. Because the spear was too fast, the friction with the air brought about blazing flames. Before the spear arrived, the terrifying explosive force had already blown apart the crooked-mouthed youth's sword chi. How could this be? The crooked-mouthed youth's pupils shrank rapidly, revealing a look of horror. His body frantically retreated, and at the same time, his battle sword spun rapidly, displaying a defensive sword technique. At this moment, the faces of the Shifang sword sect geniuses who were standing on the hopper pillars changed. What a powerful force! Someone whispered. I didn't expect that there would be a decent genius in the Star General Hall. Yang Zitian's eyes revealed a hint of interest, but it was only a hint. Dong! Lu Ming's spear fiercely whipped the sword circle formed by the crooked-mouthed youth. In an instant, there was an ear-piercing and unpleasant roar. Chapter 220. Tianyun is going to win. Someone in the Star General Hall shouted excitedly. Everyone did not expect Lu Ming to be so powerful. With just one move, he sent the youth with a crooked mouth flying in a domineering manner, causing him to vomit blood. Second move. A cold voice came from Lu Ming's mouth. Lu Ming did not stop attacking and the second spear shot out violently. Rumble. The long spear shot out, and the space shook violently. The power of this spear was even stronger than the previous one. The crooked young man was horrified. He roared and unleashed all his strength to use that defensive martial technique. The battle sword spun, and sword circles appeared one after another in front of the crooked young man. Block it! The crooked young man's eyes were red as he roared. Dong! However, the long spear swept out, and all the sword circles collapsed instantly. The long spear directly hit the crooked young man's battle sword. A terrifying force burst out, and the crooked young man's battle sword exploded with a bang. The crooked young man screamed as his bones cracked. No one knew how many of them were broken. Third move. I'll kill you. The cold voice said again. No. The crooked young man yelled. How dare you? Stop. A young man on one of the observation pillars of the Decimo sword sect shouted. However, Lu Ming's long spear did not stop. It turned into a bolt of lightning and pierced through the crooked young man's heart. With a thud, it was nailed to the ground. You dare to kill me? The crooked young man roared in disbelief. I said that I'll kill you in 3 moves. There won't be a 4th move. Lu Ming said coldly. The crooked young man's eyes were filled with fear. He let out a roar of disbelief and stopped breathing. Junior brother. How dare you kill a genius of the Decimo sword sect? You're courting death. I'll tear you to pieces. The disciples of the Decimo sword sect shouted with killing intent in their eyes. Attack. First, cripple his cultivation. Then, I want to break all the bones in his body and hang him at the entrance of the Star General Hall. Let everyone know the consequences of offending my 10 Directions sword faction. It was still the same young man on the observer pillar. This young man had a head of long green hair, and was incomparably demonic. At this moment he stared coldly at Lu Ming and spoke. Of course, the other geniuses on the observer pillar were also glaring coldly at Lu Ming. They just didn't say anything. Clang. Clang. As soon as the green-haired young man's voice faded, at least 20 disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect unsheathed their swords around Lu Ming. Streaks of sword chi flashed out. Kill. More than 20 disciples of the 10 Directions sword faction attacked together. More than 20 violent sword chi instantly submerged Lu Ming. Moon seizing. The long spear swept out, emitting a terrifying whistling sound. More than 20 sword chi were instantly destroyed. Get lost. Lu Ming roared. Like a peerless demon god, he charged forward with his spear in hand. Boom. Boom. More than 20 explosions sounded in succession. More than 20 disciples of the 10 Directions sword faction were sent flying, and coughing up blood. Everyone present was shocked. Too strong. Lu Ming was too strong. It was simply a crushing. The opponents couldn't resist at all. More than 20 people were as weak as babies in front of Lu Ming. How can there be such an expert in the Star General Hall? Many of the disciples of the Ten Directions sword faction roared in their hearts. Even Yang Zitian's eyes had a trace of seriousness. Swish! Lu Ming took a step forward and directly appeared above the green-haired young man's head, looking down at him. Get lost! Lu Ming's long spear struck down violently. It was very direct and domineering. You're courting death. The green-haired young man shouted coldly. A green battle sword appeared in his hand. With a slash, a substantial green bear pounced at Lu Ming with a roar. The green bear's palms were the size of a table. It continuously slapped at Lu Ming. Boom! A violent explosion sounded. The green bear directly collapsed and the long spear continued to smash down. How can this be? The green-haired young man's eyes flashed with disbelief. He was a top genius and famous in the Ten Directions sword faction. Some of the other disciples couldn't compare to him. The fact that he was qualified to occupy a prospect pillar was enough to explain everything. Initially, he thought that no matter how powerful Lu Ming was, he would be able to put up a fight. However, once they exchanged blows, he realized that he was wrong. He was no match for him at all. He was directly sent flying by the surging power. Boom! Lu Ming's long spear directly blasted the prospect pillar. In an instant, the pillar was smashed into pieces. Silence. At this moment, the scene suddenly quieted down. The space seemed to have frozen at this moment. After a while, there was a shocking roar. How dare you? How dare you destroy the aspiration pillar of my Ten Directions sword sect? You're dead. Kill, we must kill him. Burn his bones and scatter his ashes. Almost all the disciples of the Ten Directions sword faction roared. Although the prospect pillar was useless, it represented the face of the Ten Directions sword faction. Lu Ming destroying the prospect pillar was equivalent to slapping the faces of all the disciples of the Ten Directions sword faction in public. How could they not be angry? Even Yang Zitian and a few other youths from the Shifeng sword sect, who had been very calm, looked at Lu Ming with a sullen expression. Boom! Boom! 5 or 6 powerful auras pressed down on Lu Ming in succession. Force. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. These 5 or 6 young men had actually comprehended force. The Ten Directions sword faction was indeed full of geniuses. There were actually 5 or 6 people below the 7th level of the martial grandmaster realm, who had comprehended force. Those who could comprehend force in the martial grandmaster realm were few and far between. However, even those who comprehended force in the martial grandmaster realm were no small matter. They were definitely rare geniuses. God, there are so many people in the Ten Directions sword faction who have comprehended force. Tianyin is finished. No matter how strong he is no match for these monsters. Someone in the Star General Hall shouted. Boom! The 6 geniuses of the Ten Directions sword faction who had comprehended force all pressed down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming's expression changed. He was about to unleash his force to resist. Stop! At this moment, a loud roar was heard. In the sky, a red-haired old man flew over quickly, emitting a terrifying aura. The force of the 6 young geniuses of the Ten Directions sword faction was blocked. Old red monster, what are you doing? Do you want to attack the disciples of the Ten Directions sword faction? Let me exchange a few moves with you. Following closely behind, Akira Noji also arrived at the scene. Akira Noji looked around. When he saw the observer pillar that had been shattered, his expression changed drastically. He shouted gloomily, "Who is it? Who broke the observer pillar?" "Elder, it's that kid. He also killed junior brother Tiger." A disciple of the Ten Directions sword faction pointed at Lu Ming and shouted, "Kid, how dare you break the observer pillar of the Ten Directions sword faction? You even killed the elites of the Ten Directions sword faction. You're courting death." Akira Noji roared and slapped at Lu Ming. The powerful strength of the martial grandmaster realm was displayed. His palm was like a mountain, pressing down on Lu Ming. Boom! The red-haired old man also moved. He punched out and blocked Akira Noji's palm force. "Old red monster, do you want to fight?" Akira Noji roared. "Qiuwuji, your Ten Directions sword sect has also killed a disciple of my Astral General Hall, so we're even now. As for shattering the observer pillar, you can't blame anyone for this." Chapter 221. How can the lives of the Star General Hall be compared to the lives of the Decimo Sword faction? Get lost. Akira no Ji roared. Akira no Ji, don't go overboard. Others might be afraid of you, but I'm not. Let's fight. The red-haired old man roared like a mad lion. Akira no Ji's face darkened. If it was someone else, they might be afraid of the Decimo Sword faction, but this red-haired old man was like a wild beast. He was a lawless master who feared no one when he went mad. This was also the reason why the royal family sent the red-haired old man to lead the team. Akira no Ji, if you want to fight then fight. Otherwise you'll miss the opportunity to enter the Blood Ant secret realm. The red-haired old man said again. Good, very good. Old Red, what's the use of you protecting this kid now? Disciples of the Decimo Sword faction, listen up. This time, I'll give you a new mission. In the Blood Ant secret realm, kill this person with all your might. Whoever kills him will be heavily rewarded. Akira no Ji pointed at Lu Ming. Alright, Elder, don't worry. I'll kill this person with my own hands. This kid's life is mine. Instantly, all the disciples of the Decimo Sword faction looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Also, this time if you encounter anyone from the Star General Hall, kill them without mercy. Don't hold back. If he dares to kill someone from the Star General Hall, not only will he die, the others will die too. Akira no Ji instructed again. Elder, don't worry. This time, the people from the Star General Hall won't be able to leave. The disciples of the Decimo Sword faction said one after another. At this time, all the disciples of the Star General Hall had ugly expressions. Damn it, Tianyan, it's all Tianyan's fault. He's the one who caused this trouble. Why should we take the blame? Suddenly, a scream was heard. Lu Ming looked over and saw that it was Bai Qi again. That's right, this is all because of Tianyan. It's all his fault. We originally had a way out with the Decimo Sword faction and could have reconciled. It's all his fault. He's pushing all of us into the fire pit. On the observer pillar, a green-robed youth also roared. This person was originally Bai Qi's good friend, so he naturally stood on Bai Qi's side. As soon as these words were spoken, many people in the Star General Hall looked at Lu Ming in a different light. They felt that what Bai Qi and the green-robed youth said made sense. How about this? Let's enter the Blood Ant Mystic Realm and work together to capture Tianyan. We'll hand him over to the Decimo Sword sect and reconcile with them. What do you think? Bai Qi shouted. Nonsense. Bai Qi. What the fuck are you talking about? Miangcheng couldn't help but cry out. He was so angry that his chest was swelling with pain. Bai Qi and the green-robed youth were too shameless. Who was the one who was humiliated by the 10 Directions Sword School just now? The entire Star General Hall was suppressed to the point that they could not raise their heads. If not for Lu Ming's intervention, the Star Hall would have lost a lot of face today. Now they were actually making a false countercharge and blaming everything on Lu Ming. How could there be such a shameless person in the world? I'm not talking nonsense. That's the truth. If not for Tianyan, would things have turned out this way? Bai Qi clamored. Shut up. At this moment, the red-haired elder reprimanded and looked coldly at Bai Qi. What are you afraid of? At most, we'll fight. Tianyan is not wrong. Elder, the blood ant egg is more important. Bai Qi shouted. Ha ha ha, Bai Qi is right. If that's the case, we can consider showing mercy. Someone from the Decimo Sword sect laughed. The others also looked at the people from the Star General Hall with a mocking look. It was ridiculous that there was already an internal conflict before they even set off. Bai Qi. At this moment, Lu Ming shouted softly. His voice was calm and indifferent, and no emotions could be heard. Everyone couldn't help but look at Lu Ming. Bai Qi, everything you've done today has already determined your fate. I will kill you in the Blood Ant secret realm. If I don't kill you, I, Tianyan, will cripple my own cultivation. His voice wasn't loud, but it was incomparably cold. There was a terrifying killing intent and determination to kill Bai Qi. Bai Qi's face turned pale in an instant, and a chill ran down his spine. Elder, look. We're both from the Star General Hall, but Tianyan actually threatened to kill me. How can such a vicious person stay in the Star General Hall? I suggest that we expel him from the Star General Hall and disqualify him from participating in the Blood Ant's secret realm. Bai Qi looked at the red-haired elder and shouted. He was scared to death. Shut up. I don't care about what happens in the Blood Ant's secret realm. You can settle it yourselves. The red-haired elder reprimanded, clearly unhappy with Bai Qi's actions. And all of you. Lu Ming pointed his long spear at the people of the Decimo Sword sect. His gaze was like lightning, and his aura was like that of a demon. All of you from the Decimo Sword sect want to kill me. Fine, Tianyan will take it. Let's see who will kill who then. Let's see who will kill who. The 4 short words swept out like a storm, shaking everyone's heart. Everyone was shocked. Such strong confidence, such strong boldness. Did these words mean that he wanted to fight an entire sect alone? Good, that's how a martial artist should be. The red-haired elder roared, his eyes shining. The more he looked at Lu Ming, the more he felt that he liked him. Arrogant, ignorant. Just because you have some battle strength, you can't tell the difference. There are many people from the Decimo Sword sect who can kill him. Kill, we must kill him when we reach the Blood Ant secret realm. The disciples of the Decimo Sword sect roared. Their eyes filled with fear and hostility. Clang. A loud sword sound resounded, and a sword chi soared into the sky, stirring up the wind and clouds. It was Yang Zitian. His black hair danced in the wind, and his eyes were like stars. He looked at Lu Ming and said, "He's my prey. If I meet him, I'll kill him." As soon as these words came out, the people of the Decimo Sword sect were shocked. Yang Zitian wants to kill him. He's dead for sure. There's no chance for him to live. It's rare that he caught the attention of senior brother Yang Zitian. It's his honor. The disciples of the Decimo Sword sect sneered. If you want to kill me, you must be prepared to be killed by me. Lu Ming's lips curled into a sneer as he glared at Yang Zitian. They were at each other's throats. You don't know what's good for you. The disciples of the Decimo Sword sect sneered. Okay, let's go. The red-haired elder suddenly roared, and led the way into the depths of the barren mountain. Let's go too. Qiu Wuji said coldly as he led the people of the Decimo Sword sect to follow. The group ran for a few thousand meters before stopping at a pile of rocks. However, there were inscriptions carved on these rocks. Old Monster read, "Let's begin." Qiu Wuji looked at the red-haired elder. The red-haired elder nodded and walked to one side of the rocks with the other elders. Qiu Wuji led the elders of the Decimo Sword sect to the other side of the rocks. Both sides shouted at the same time and waved their hands. Streams of true qi surged out and poured into the rocks. Wang. The inscriptions glowed. And then a door of light condensed in the rocks. This was the entrance to the Blood Ant secret realm. Go in. Over at the Star General Hall, there were people impatiently rushing towards the door of light. Once they entered the door of light, they disappeared. We have 10 days to enter this time. What's the use of being so impatient? Chapter 222. Then most of the Shifang Sword sect disciples looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent, before rushing into the light gate. Brother Tianyan, you must be careful. Miang Cheng warned with a solemn expression. Brother Ming, don't worry. I'm not afraid of anyone below the 7th level of the Martial Grandmaster realm. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He was very confident. During this period of time, he had been training hard in the Divine Wind Valley and gained a lot. His combat strength had greatly increased, so he was naturally confident. I believe in Brother Tianyan. Those people from the Shifang Sword sect won't be able to do anything to you. Miang Cheng said. The scene of him sparring with Lu Ming a month ago was still vivid in his mind. Let's go in. Miang Cheng said. Lu Ming nodded and rushed into the light gate with Miang Cheng. When the disciples from both sides rushed into the light gate, the red-haired old man pondered for a while, and whispered a few words to an old man beside him. The old man nodded and turned into a rainbow light, and disappeared into the sky. Akira no Ji's eyes flashed, and he also said a few words to an elder of the Shifang Sword sect. That elder also turned into a rainbow light and disappeared. On the other side, the sky and earth spun. Then, Lu Ming felt his body falling. Around him, there was a burst of moist air. Lu Ming took a closer look and smiled bitterly. It turned out that he was in the air, and below him was a large river that flowed endlessly. The river was at least 100 meters wide, and the river water was turbulent. No one knew where it flowed to. Lu Ming was falling toward the river. High air step. Lu Ming took a deep breath and stepped on the void. His body became as light as a feather as he slowly descended. Splash. Suddenly, the river water below surged and a blood-red ant rushed out of the river. It waved its sharp claws and clawed at Lu Ming. This blood-red ant was very large. It was the size of a puppy. Compared to other ants, it was many times larger. Blood ant. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. With a wave of his hand, a long spear condensed and stabbed forward. Poochie. The long spear pierced through the blood ant's mouth, and the blood ant's head exploded. He sucked in the true chi in his palm and grabbed the blood ant's corpse. Blood ant egg. Lu Ming found a blood-red ball the size of a longan in the abdomen of the blood ant. The round ball emitted a dense blood aura. It was their target this time, the blood ant egg. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming's zhenqi was like a knife as he took the blood ant egg into his hand. Then he stepped on the river with the tip of his foot. His body floated forward and landed on the riverside. I didn't expect there to be blood ants in the river. Lu Ming smiled. This blood ant is equivalent to a first-level martial master. It is a Class 1 LV3 demonic beast. It is said that a Class 1 LV3 demonic beast's blood ant will condense one blood ant egg in its abdomen. A Class 2 LV3 blood ant will condense 2 blood ant eggs in its abdomen. A Class 3 LV3 blood ant will condense 4 blood ant eggs. The higher the rank, the higher the number. The blood ant eggs condensed by the blood ant will be twice as many as the previous rank. I have to find a higher-ranked blood ant to quickly obtain the blood ant eggs. Lu Ming pondered. Then he followed the river to see if he could find any blood ants. Splash. Soon, a blood ant emerged from the river and pounced on Lu Ming. This blood ant was bigger than the previous one. There were 2 blood ant eggs in its abdomen. A Class 2 LV3 blood ant. Lu Ming was delighted. He stabbed out with his spear and killed the blood ant. With this, Lu Ming had 3 blood ant eggs. My luck is not bad. I have just entered and I have already obtained 3 blood ant eggs. If I get 3 more, I can exchange them for a blood refining pill. Thinking of the blood refining pill, Lu Ming was full of motivation. He continued to walk along the river. Rustle. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from a mound beside the river. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he rushed toward the mound. Lu Ming was overjoyed when he saw the mound. There was a cave in the mound and a few blood ants were going in and out. Could it be an ant nest? Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he was about to rush out. Not far away, there was the sound of something breaking through the air. 7 figures were rushing toward him. Ant nest, it's an ant nest. Haha, we are so lucky. We just entered and we already found an ant nest. A loud laugh was heard. People from the Shifang sword sect. There was a cold smile at the corners of Lu Ming's lips. Tianyan. The 7 disciples of the Shifang sword sect also saw Lu Ming, and their faces changed slightly. Good, we are so lucky. Not only did we find an ant nest, but we also met Tianyan. As long as we kill him, Elder Qiu Wuji will reward us handsomely. The eyes of the 7 youths lit up. Lucky. The sneer at the corners of Lu Ming's lips deepened. Whoosh. Whoosh. The figures of the 7 young men flashed and surrounded Lu Ming. Each of them exuded a powerful aura. 6th-level martial master. The 7 of them were all in the 6th-level martial master realm. 4 of them were at the peak of the 6th-level martial master realm. Tianyan, it's your bad luck to meet the 7 swords of the He clan. Today is the day you die. One of the oldest youths sneered. Although Lu Ming had shown great strength before, they were not afraid and were confident that they could kill Lu Ming. In the Shifang sword sect, they were famous geniuses. The 7 of them were from the same clan, and were known as the 7 swords of the He clan. They were good at joint attacks. When the 7 of them worked together, not many in the 6th-level martial master realm could defeat them. In the Shifang sword sect, other than the 6 geniuses who had comprehended force, no other 6th-level martial master was a match for the 7 of them. Therefore, they were confident. Shifang sword sect, this time, I'll start with you guys. Lu Ming smiled faintly. You are still so arrogant when you are about to die. Brothers, send him on his way. Clang clang, 7 sounds of swords could be heard. 7 people and 7 long swords set up an impenetrable sword net and charged toward Lu Ming. Landslide. The long spear swept out and collided with the sword net. Dong. Lu Ming's expression changed slightly. He felt that when the long spear collided with the sword net, the strong power of the long spear disappeared without a trace. It barely repelled the sword net, but it did not disperse. What a wonderful joint attack. Lu Ming's heart moved. In the last month in the Divine Wind Valley, Lu Ming's cultivation naturally broke through to the 5th level martial master realm. Given the thickness of Lu Ming's vital energy and his cultivation level as a 5th level martial master, the power of a casual spear sweep was extremely terrifying. An ordinary martial artist at the 7th level martial master realm would be whipped to death by the spear. Even an 8th level martial master warrior would be seriously injured. However, it was blocked by the He clan's 7 swords. Hahaha Tianyan, your attack is useless against us. One of the He clan's 7 swords laughed. Chi. The sword auras flashed and densely packed sword auras charged toward Lu Ming. Again. Lu Ming smiled faintly and his true chi increased by 2 points. Boom. This spear was stronger than the previous one. When it hit the sword net, it made the sword net tremble violently. What's going on? How can he have such a strong power? Is this still the power of someone below the 7th level martial master realm? The He clan's 7 swords were shocked. Attack with all your strength and kill him. Kill. The 7 people's bloodline erupted. All of them had 5th level bloodline. The eruption of their bloodline greatly increased their battle strength. Go to hell. The He clan's 7 swords roared. Really? You are the ones who will die. Lu Ming said coldly. Boom. Lu Ming's body erupted with a fiery aura like a volcano. Chapter 223. The power of fire erupted and the aura soared into the sky. It was extremely hot. The He clan's 7 swords' faces changed greatly. Power, this is power, the power of fire. What a terrifying power of fire. What level of fire is this? It's too terrifying. Not good. The He clan's 7 swords roared one after another, their faces full of horror. Boom. Lu Ming held a long spear in his hand, his long hair fluttering in the wind like a fire god. Kill. Lu Ming suddenly yelled, and a terrifying spear gleam burst forth. The sword net set up by the He clan's 7 swords collapsed in an instant like paper. Not good, retreat. One of the He clan's 7 swords roared. Retreat? You want to retreat now? It's too late. A cold voice came out from Lu Ming's mouth. Chi. Then several spear lights shot out. A few screams sounded. 4 of the He clan's 7 swords were pierced by Lu Ming's spear light. Run. The remaining 3 of the He clan's 7 swords were scared out of their wits and desperately ran away. The 3 of them scattered and fled. However, Lu Ming stepped on the void and seemed to be traveling in the air. He caught up with one person in an instant. I'll fight it out with you. The young man roared and charged toward Lu Ming with all his might. However, facing Lu Ming who used the power of fire, he was too weak and was directly killed by the spear. Then he chased after the other 2. Tianyan, you will die a horrible death. My Shifeng sword sect will not let you go. You will die without a burial place. In the end, there was no suspense. The remaining 2 were killed by Lu Ming one by one, leaving only desperate roars. Lu Ming smiled faintly and did not care. His figure flashed and devoured all the blood essence of the 7 people. However, Lu Ming's current cultivation had reached the 5th level of the martial master realm. The blood essence of a 6th level martial master realm martial artist was of limited help to him. It did not take long for him to completely refine it. Lu Ming's cultivation had only improved slightly. After refining the blood essence, Lu Ming charged towards the ant nest. Chi. Suddenly, a few blood ants pounced on Lu Ming, but they were easily killed by Lu Ming and the eggs were taken away. However, more blood ants crawled out of the nest. There were more than a dozen of them. There were a few of them 2nd level of the 3rd level. Instead of being shocked, Lu Ming was overjoyed. He charged toward the blood ants. Before long, Lu Ming had 20 blood ant eggs in his hands. In addition to the previous blood ant eggs, The blood ant eggs in Lu Ming's hands could be exchanged for 4 blood refinement pills. Lu Ming was very excited. He charged into the ant nest. However, the number of blood ants in this ant nest was not as many as expected. There were only slightly more than 50 blood ants. 2 hours later, Lu Ming killed all of them. Haha, my luck is not bad. Lu Ming laughed. He left the ant nest and continued his search. This small plane was very large. It was even larger than the small plane left behind by the Dongi ancestors that Lu Ming had entered before. Lu Ming searched 100 miles, but he felt that he had only occupied a small corner of this small plane. He did not even encounter many other people. Lu Ming's luck seemed to have run out in the next 2 days. He did not even encounter many blood ants, let alone ant nests. In 2 days he had only obtained 18 eggs. It is said that the depths of this small plane is the nest of the blood ants. There is a mother ant inside. It is said that there are a large number of blood ant eggs, all of which were shed by the blood ants. However, that place is very dangerous. Many experts die there every time. If I don't get much in the next few days, I will go to the nest of the blood ants. Lu Ming thought to himself as he continued to search for blood ants. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he stopped. He smelled a fragrance. It was the fragrance of spiritual herbs. There are spiritual herbs nearby? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. His eyes flashed with a fiery light. The blood ant arcane realm was a small plane that had just been born. Although it was not very stable, it was very easy to nurture rare treasures. It was like the birth of heaven and earth. It was the easiest place to nurture treasures. Once a spiritual herb was nurtured in such an environment, it would definitely not be an ordinary item. Lu Ming's nose twitched. He memorized it, found the right direction and sped off. Soon he saw a few figures in front of him. They were also heading in that direction. Lu Ming recognized them at a glance. They were from the Decimo Sword sect. It seems that this spiritual herb is not to be underestimated. It has attracted many people. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile as he sped forward. A wide lake appeared in front of him. The lake was very large. It was at least 1,000 meters wide. The lake water was as clear as a mirror. At this moment, there were no less than 50 people around the lake. Lu Ming was slightly surprised that there were so many people here. Then Lu Ming looked at the lake. There was a spiritual herb in the middle of the lake. It was a jade-green spiritual herb with 9 leaves. The leaves were crystal clear, as if they were polished from green jade. There was a spiritual fruit in the middle of the 9 leaves. The spiritual fruit looked like a dragon. It was vivid and lifelike. Spiritual dragon fruit. This is the spiritual dragon fruit. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. His eyes shone with a strong light. The spiritual dragon fruit was an extremely rare spiritual herb. It was rare in the world. Legend had it that if a martial grandmaster martial artist swallowed it, his cultivation would definitely break through to the next level. Even if a martial ancestor martial artist swallowed it, there was a high chance of breaking through to the next level. The medicinal effect was extremely shocking. But to Lu Ming, this was not the most attractive thing. What attracted Lu Ming the most was the help the spiritual dragon fruit provided to the true dragon battling technique. Now Lu Ming's true dragon battling technique had been cultivated to the 3rd level for a long time. But to cultivate to the 4th level, he would need 6 precious materials. However, nothing was set in stone. It did not mean that he had to have these 6 materials. There were some very precious natural treasures that could replace 6. The spiritual dragon fruit was such a rare treasure. A single spiritual dragon fruit could help Lu Ming cultivate to the 4th level of the true dragon battling technique. How could Lu Ming not be tempted? Once he cultivated to the 4th level, Lu Ming's true qi would be 5 times stronger than ordinary true qi. Lu Ming's battle strength would definitely increase exponentially. I must get the spiritual dragon fruit. Lu Ming thought to himself. He looked at the spiritual dragon fruit carefully. At this moment, there was a faint layer of light on the spiritual dragon fruit. In the light, he could vaguely see a small dragon dancing. An extremely rich medicinal fragrance was constantly emitted, stirring one's nerves. Obviously, the spiritual dragon fruit was not fully ripe, but it was close to being fully ripe. This was also the reason why so many people had gathered here, but no one had made a move yet. The spiritual dragon fruit was not fully ripe. If it was plucked, its medicinal effect would be greatly reduced. It would not even have 1/10 of the medicinal effect of a fully ripe fruit. It would not be able to break through at all. Tianyan, it's you. Chapter 224. A cold shout came from nearby as a few youths from the Decimo Sword sect noticed him. The voice shook the entire place. More than 50 youths turned their heads and looked at Lu Ming. It's really Tianyan. There are so many of us here and he still dares to appear? Haha, he's courting death. Let's join forces and kill him. The disciples of the Decimo Sword sect looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent. Lu Ming scanned the area. He was well aware of the situation. There were more than 30 youths from the Decimo Sword sect here. There were also nearly 20 youths from the Star General Hall, including 3 of the top 10 Outer Hall experts. Tianyan, he's mine. A sinister voice came from the Decimo Sword sect. A young man in a blue robe strode out and looked at Lu Ming with a cold smile. Senior Brother Xuehan. Is Senior Brother Xuehan going to take action personally? Tianyan is dead meat. When the young man walked out, there were exclamations from the Decimo Sword sect. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He remembered that this young man was one of the 6 geniuses in the Decimo Sword sect who had comprehended force. Tianyan, you're really blinded by greed. How dare you appear here? You're really courting death. Fine, I'll finish you off and complete one of Elder Chio's tasks. Xuehan looked at Lu Ming and said calmly. His tone was full of confidence as if Lu Ming was already a piece of meat in his mouth. A few disciples of the Decimo Sword sect said the same thing to me before, but they're already on their way. Lu Ming smiled indifferently. What? Tianyan, you killed another disciple of the Decimo Sword sect? How dare you? Do you know that you're committing a heinous crime? A disciple of the Decimo Sword sect yelled. Ridiculous. Lu Ming merely uttered 2 words calmly. There were always some people who felt good about themselves, as if they were the only ones who could kill others. If others resisted, they would be committing a heinous crime. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with such people. Tianyan, no matter what. Now that you've met me, you're dead. Lu Xuehan's face turned gloomy as a powerful aura emanated from his body. Force, the force of water. Cut the crap. Like I said before. Let's see who will kill who. Lu Ming pointed the spear in his hand, his killing intent bursting forth. At this moment, an even more intense fragrance wafted out. Everyone was shocked. The spirit flood dragon fruit was about to mature. Tianyan, I'll let you live a little longer. I'll kill you after I get the spirit dragon fruit. Lu Xuehan said coldly. He looked at the Jiaoling fruit with a burning gaze. As long as he obtained the flood dragon spirit fruit, he would be able to use it to break through to the 7th level martial grandmaster realm. At that time, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone in the blood ant secret realm, not even Yang Zitian. At that time, how many blood ant eggs would he be able to obtain if he killed his way into the blood ant's nest? When he thought of this, his heart was burning. Breaking through to the 7th level martial grandmaster realm in the blood ant secret realm would not be rejected. People of the Star General Hall, if you dare to attack, I won't let any of you out. Lu Xuehan looked coldly at the people of the Star General Hall. Lu Xuehan, the blood ant secret realm is not yours. Everyone has a share. A young man from the Star General Hall said. He was one of the top 10 experts of the Star General Hall. As long as he obtained the spirit dragon fruit, he would be able to break through to the 7th level martial grandmaster realm. At that time, he wouldn't be afraid of the Shifeng sword faction. Therefore, he was very strong and didn't want to back down. You're courting death. Wait until I obtain the spirit dragon fruit and break through to the next level. I'll kill all these trash from the Star General Hall. Lu Xuehan's eyes flickered with a sinister light. Roar. Suddenly, the spirit dragon fruit let out a dragon's roar. The spirit dragon fruit shone brightly, and a burst of medicinal fragrance spread throughout the area. After a few breaths, the brilliance dimmed, and the medicinal fragrance also faded, becoming more restrained. The spirit dragon fruit had ripened. The spirit dragon fruit is mine. Lu Shuihen roared and leaped out like an arrow, shooting towards the spirit dragon fruit at high speed. Whoosh! Whoosh! The people of the Star General Hall and the Shifeng Sword faction also rushed toward the spirit dragon fruit. Get out of my way! Lu Shuihen roared and punched out. The surface of the lake exploded and pillars of water formed and shot toward the people of the Star General Hall. Damn it! The experts of the Star General Hall joined forces and blocked the water pillars. However, their bodies were hindered and they fell toward the lake. They stepped on the surface of the lake and stopped themselves. However, Lu Shuihen had already run a long distance. Trash like you want to stop me? The spirit dragon fruit is mine. Lu Shuihen sneered in his heart. However, he was stunned in the next moment. A figure stepped on the void and leaped over his head, heading straight for the spirit dragon fruit. Tianyun, stop right there. You're courting death. Lu Shuihen roared. He stepped on the surface of the water and dashed forward at high speed. At the same time, he waved his palms and the nearby lake water was driven by him. It condensed into water swords and pierced toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't even look and swept out with his spear. Bam! Bam! There was a loud explosion. The water swords were not scattered, but Lu Ming's body was affected by a huge force and fell down. The force of water is indeed amazing, especially on the surface of the lake. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Haha, Lu Ming, you haven't comprehended the force. You're still trash. Today you're dead. Lu Shuihen laughed and a battle sword that looked like autumn water appeared in his hand. He waved the battle sword and the lake water formed pillars of water that blasted toward Lu Ming together with the sword chi. What's so great about comprehending the force? There was a cold smile on Lu Ming's lips as he spoke faintly. What's so great about it? Haha, you're just jealous, right? Lu Shuihen's voice stopped as he spoke. Because at this moment, Lu Ming's body suddenly burst out with a light and sharp chi. Force, the force of wind. Buzz. Lu Ming's spear shook and a gust of wind whistled out. The spear swept out and a tornado appeared on the surface of the lake. Bam! Bam! Lu Shuihen's water pillars were instantly scattered and the powerful force of the spear blasted toward Lu Shuihen. Lu Shuihen exerted all his strength and slashed out with his sword, which clashed with Lu Ming's spear. Bam! Lu Shuihen's body was directly sent flying and hit the surface of the lake, causing a large splash. Lu Shuihen was directly blasted into the lake. Behind him, the other disciples of 10 Directions Sword Sect and Star General Hall all gasped and widened their eyes. For a moment, their bodies slowed down. Splash! The lake water splashed and Lu Shuihen rushed out of the lake and shouted in disbelief. Force of wind has reached minor accomplishment. How can you cultivate force of wind to minor accomplishment? He could feel that Lu Ming's force of wind had reached minor accomplishment, and its power was shocking. As for his water force, it was only at the entry level. It was unknown how far away it was from minor accomplishment. Isn't it just force? What's so great about it that you have to talk about it all the time? Chapter 225. During the 2 months in the Divine Wind Valley, Lu Ming's wind force had been improving at a rapid pace. Just a few days before entering the Blood Ant Secret Realm, his wind force had finally reached the minor accomplishment realm. There was a huge difference between someone who had reached initial success in force and someone who had yet to reach initial success. Lu Shuihen's face was flushed red. Previously, he had been arrogant and looked down on Lu Ming because he had comprehended force. But in the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had slapped him hard in the face with an even stronger force. The thing that he was so proud of was not worth mentioning in Lu Ming's eyes. This was a serious blow to his confidence. Kill. Let's kill him together. Lu Shuihen roared in anger. He must kill Lu Ming. Kill. More than 30 disciples of the Decimo Sword Sect roared as they ran on the lake toward Lu Ming. It was not difficult for martial artists above the 3rd level of the Martial Master Realm to walk on the water. More than 30 people attacked together, and their power was terrifying. Suddenly, the lake's surface was turbulent, and the waves swept over like a tsunami. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with killing intent as he shook the demon banishing spear. Suddenly, dozens of spear radiances shot out. Under the support of the wind force, These spear radiances were shockingly fast and had terrifying penetrative power. Blood splattered and screams were heard. In an instant, more than a dozen disciples of the Decimo sword sect were assassinated. Blood dyed the lake red. Kill. Lu Ming stepped on the void and rushed into the crowd like a tiger in a flock of sheep. No one could stop him as he reaped the lives of the disciples of the Decimo sword sect. Not far away, the disciples of the general hall stopped and looked at this scene with pale faces. This Tianyin is too ruthless, isn't he? He really dares to kill the disciples of the Decimo sword sect? Ruthless. This is a real ruthless person. The Star General Hall student's throat trembled as he cried out in shock. Lu Shuihan's face was also pale as he shouted, "Kill! Kill him!" However, he quickly ran toward the spirit dragon fruit. "Lu Shuihan, you're despicable!" A disciple of the Decimo sword sect roared. In the same sect, there was a lot of competition. Of course, it was impossible for them to be so united. At this moment, Lu Shuihan was the first to slip away. He wanted to seize the opportunity to snatch the flood dragon spirit fruit. Naturally, they wouldn't allow that. "Let's go, we're going to fight for the spirit dragon fruit too. The spirit dragon fruit is mine." The remaining 10 Directions Sword Sect disciples immediately abandoned Lu Ming and ran toward the spirit flood dragon fruit. "Do you think it's that easy to come and go as you please?" Lu Ming sneered. His figure swooped down like a goshawk. He pulled out his long spear. 2 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword School screamed as they were killed on the lake. The others were horrified. Lu Ming tapped his foot on the surface of the lake and chased after Lu Shuihan. At this moment, Lu Shuihan was already close to the spirit dragon fruit. "Ha ha ha, the flood dragon spirit fruit is mine. As long as I pluck it, hide at the bottom of the lake, and refine it, Tianyin will die." Lu Shuihan's eyes flickered with a sinister light, but at the same time, there was a hint of excitement in them. He reached out his hand, and his true chi gushed out as he was about to pluck the spirit dragon fruit. Splash! At this moment, the surface of the lake suddenly surged. A giant claw covered with sharp spikes reached out from the lake and grabbed at Lu Shuihan. "What the hell is this?" Lu Shuihan's expression changed drastically. He slashed out with his battle sword and hit the giant claw. Sparks flew everywhere, but he was sent flying by the giant claw. "Damn it!" Lu Shuihan roared. Seeing the fat meat in his mouth disappear, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Splash! The surface of the lake surged as another giant claw came out. 2 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect were caught off guard and were smashed into meat patties. Since then, only a dozen disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect were left. It was a heavy loss. Whoosh! The lake surged and the thing under the lake was finally revealed. It was a monster that was dozens of meters long. Its body was covered with spikes, and its mouth was long and pointy. "Anteater? Could it be an anteater?" Someone shouted. This guy looked very similar to an anteater. It was very possible. The blood ant secret realm bred a large number of blood ants. It was normal for anteaters that fed on blood ants to be born. However, the size of this anteater was a little too big. The anteater appeared and let out a sharp cry. It moved the lake and pounced at Lu Shuihan and the others. The shocking thing was that at this moment, behind Lu Ming and the group, the lake water was surging and another anteater had appeared. The 2 anteaters surrounded Lu Ming and the group and charged toward them. Chi-chi! A dozen spikes shot out from the anteater's body. The spikes pierced through the air and let out a terrifying whistling sound. One of the spikes shot at Lu Ming. Lu Ming pulled out his long spear and knocked the spike away. What a powerful force! Lu Ming felt his arm go numb. The anteater's strength was extremely shocking. This is at least a Class 9 LV3 demonic beast. Lu Ming judged. He could knock away the anteater's spikes, but the others were not so lucky. Screams rose and fell. 12 people from the Star General Hall and the 10 Directions Sword Sect were killed in an instant. Blood dyed the lake. Go quickly. The remaining people from the Star General Hall and the 10 Directions Sword Sect turned pale with fright. They no longer cared about the spirit dragon fruit and desperately ran to the shore. However, How could two powerful demonic beasts that were equivalent to a martial grandmaster realm cultivator escape so easily? A few more corpses were left. In the end, only 8 people from both sides managed to escape to the shore. Once they reached the shore, the anteaters stopped chasing. However, there was an exception, and that was Lu Ming. He did not rush to the shore, but to the spirit dragon fruit. He rushed towards the fruit. The 2 anteaters became even more violent. They screamed and attacked Lu Ming crazily. Giant claws covered with spikes kept clawing at Lu Ming. Swish. Swish. Lu Ming used the high air steps to the extreme. His whole body seemed to be weightless and constantly flashed. One moment on the lake, the next in the air. Although the 2 anteaters tried their best to stop Lu Ming, they still could not stop him. Whoosh. At this moment, a figure suddenly jumped out from the water below the spirit dragon fruit. He grabbed the spirit dragon fruit and plucked it off. This figure was actually Shui Hen. He did not rush to the shore but took the opportunity to dive into the water. With his cultivation method and the power of water, he had a great advantage underwater. Ha ha ha, the spirit dragon fruit is mine. Shui Hen laughed wildly in his heart and revealed an excited expression. With a thought, he put the spirit dragon fruit into his storage ring. Just as he was about to dive into the water to escape, more than a dozen sharp spear lights stabbed at him. You want to take the spirit dragon fruit? In your dreams. Lu Ming sneered. His body flashed and approached Shui Hen. Tianyan, damn you. Shui Hen roared. The 2 anteaters were furious that the spirit dragon fruit had been plucked. They twisted their bodies and shot out dozens of spikes. Shui Hen was about to dive into the water. However, at this moment, a tail covered with spikes pulled out from below him. It was the tail of an anteater. Tianyan, get lost. Chapter 226. Although Lu Shui Hen was powerful, he was no match for Lu Ming. The sword of water that he had formed and the sword chi was shattered by Lu Ming's spear. PFFF. Lu Shui Hen's body was bleeding profusely from several wounds. Lu Shui Hen screamed and tried his best to avoid the anteater's attack. However, Lu Ming's spear reached him in an instant. Bang! Lu Shui Hen was sent flying like a rubber ball, leaving a trail of blood on the surface of the lake. He let out a miserable shriek. Half of his body had almost exploded, and one of his arms had disappeared without a trace. Lu Ming chased after Lu Shui Hen with murderous intent in his eyes. No, Tianyan, you can't kill me. I'm the top genius of Shifeng sword sect. You won't have a good ending if you kill me. Lu Shui Hen screamed in fear. However, Lu Ming's eyes were firm and unmoved. Lu Shui Hen lost all hope and shouted, Tianyan, let me go. Please let me go. If you want the spirit dragon fruit, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. The spirit dragon fruit will be mine after I kill you. Lu Ming's voice was indifferent. His spear turned into a flash of lightning and shot out. No, Lu Shui Hen screamed, but his throat was pierced by Lu Ming's spear. Lu Shui Hen was dead. Lu Ming's true qi surged out and sucked Lu Shui Hen's storage ring into the Temple of Paragon. Of course, Lu Shui Hen's blood essence was also devoured. At this moment, the 2 anteaters also charged towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming's figure flashed, dodging the attacks of the 2 anteaters and running towards the shore. Oh no, run! On the shore, the remaining disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect turned pale with fright and turned to run. Lu Shui Hen was killed. If they stayed, they would be courting death. Run! There were a few disciples of the Hall of General, and some of them were even among the top 10 disciples of the Outer Hall. However, they looked at Lu Ming in fear and did not dare to stay. They turned and ran away. They were afraid that Lu Ming would go crazy and kill them too. Lu Ming walked on the waves. No matter how hard the 2 anteaters tried to attack him, they couldn't even touch a single hair on his body. It's a pity that there are 2 of them. If there was only one, I would want to fight. Lu Ming muttered. With his current combat strength, he really wanted to fight it. However, there were 2 of them. Forget it. It would be a waste of time. Lu Ming leaped across the surface of the lake and collected all the dead disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect and the Star Hall students' rings of holding. At the same time, he devoured their blood essence. I don't want to play with you anymore. After plundering everything, Lu Ming let out a long laugh. His figure soared into the sky like a gust of wind, reaching a height of over 100 meters. He stepped on the air and came to the shore. The two anteaters screamed, but in the end, they didn't chase after him. After that, Lu Ming turned around and left. After 50 miles, he stopped and clenched his fist, and a storage ring appeared in his hand. That storage ring belonged to Lu Shuihen. Lu Ming couldn't wait to look at it. Sure enough, the spirit dragon fruit was lying quietly in the storage ring. With a wave of his hand, the spirit dragon fruit appeared in his hand, emitting a strong medicinal fragrance. Lu Ming took a whiff and felt that the true qi in his body seemed to have sped up. What a strong medicinal effect! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, he swallowed the spirit dragon fruit and began to refine it. The spirit dragon fruit's energy was extremely terrifying. Once it entered his mouth, it turned into a huge amount of energy that flowed into his limbs and bones. Lu Ming activated the true dragon of war and refined it with all his might. Lu Ming tried to break through to the 4th level of the true dragon of war with all his might. Originally, breaking through to the 4th level required a total of 6 extremely precious treasures of heaven and earth, as well as dozens of supplementary materials. However, that was no longer necessary. 1 spirit dragon fruit was enough. As the spirit dragon fruit was refined, the true dragon of war's true qi continued to condense and become stronger. 2 hours later, Lu Ming's body shook and he opened his eyes. He couldn't help but let out a long roar that sounded like a dragon's roar. Fortunately, he was in the Temple of Paragon. If he was outside, his roar would have spread across dozens of miles. I have broken through to the 4th level of the true dragon of war. Lu Ming slowly raised his right hand and gently clenched it. The air in his palm was caught by Lu Ming and crackling sounds could be heard. The density of my true qi is 5 times that of an ordinary martial artist. It's so strong. Feeling the surging true qi in his body, Lu Ming's lips curled into a satisfied smile. Now let's see what I've gained. Lu Ming took out a pile of storage rings and counted them. There were a total of 42 rings. These were all storage rings left behind by geniuses above the martial master realm. Lu Ming was looking forward to the items inside. He opened them one by one and counted them. Finally, he categorized them and piled them up in front of Lu Ming. There was a small pile of various spiritual herbs, but most of them were not of a high grade. All kinds of spiritual pills were stored in jade bottles, piled up in a huge pile. They were definitely worth a fortune. There were also various ores, materials from demonic beasts, spiritual weapons, etc. Lu Ming categorized them. There were also stacks of banknotes, which added up to a few 100 million taels. This was a huge sum. Even if it was converted into spiritual crystals, it would be worth tens of thousands. What surprised Lu Ming the most were not these, but the spiritual crystals and blood ant eggs. There were more than 80,000 spiritual crystals, which filled up several large boxes. There were also 536 blood ant eggs. This was much more than what Lu Ming had obtained in the past few days. Ha ha ha. These resources are enough for me to use for a period of time. On the 3rd platform, I will need more spiritual crystals as my cultivation increases. I don't have to worry about it for the time being. Lu Ming laughed heartily. When Lu Ming was at the 1st level of the martial master realm, he needed 9 spirit crystals to condense a figure with the same combat ability as him on the 3rd platform. However, as Lu Ming's cultivation increased, he needed more spiritual crystals. For the 2nd layer of the martial master realm, he needed 18 spiritual crystals. For the 3rd layer of the martial master realm, he needed 36 spiritual crystals. Now that Lu Ming was in the 5th layer of the martial master realm, he needed 144 spiritual crystals each time. This was too extravagant. One time, for 6 hours, he needed 144 spiritual crystals. As his cultivation increased, he would need even more. How could an ordinary person afford it? In the past few months, Lu Ming had used a few thousand spiritual crystals just to condense the spiritual crystals to fight with him. Without this replenishment, Lu Ming wouldn't have been able to last long with the spiritual crystals he had. It's better to rob others. Resources come quickly. It's much faster than working hard to obtain them. Lu Ming sighed. Rob others. Suddenly Lu Ming's eyes lit up. That's right, Rob. Since the Shifeng sword sect wanted to kill him, why should he be polite? Haha, good, let's do it. I'll wait for them at the blood ant nest. Chapter 227. 3 hours later, Lu Ming arrived at a desolate plain. Not even a blade of grass could be seen. In the middle of the plain, there was a large pit with a radius of more than 100 meters. Standing at the edge and looking down, one could see that the pit was filled with caves. Occasionally, one could see a few blood ants crawling in and out. This was the blood ant's nest. Lu Ming sat cross-legged beside the pit, waiting for the others to arrive. Only 3 days had passed. There were still 7 days before the blood ant secret realm closed. Lu Ming cultivated while waiting. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. During these 5 days, not a single person came. Lu Ming was not in a hurry. He knew very well that in the first 7 to 8 days, everyone would be in other places, looking for opportunities and hunting blood ants. They would only rush to the blood ant's nest in the last 2 days to try their luck. In a swamp, corpses of blood ants were lying on the ground. The eggs in their abdomens had all disappeared. Let's go to the blood ant's nest. With a light shout, a young man with a cold and arrogant expression rushed out of the swamp and towards the blood ant's nest. Behind him were more than 10 young men. In a mountain peak, a long howl could be heard. Let's go to the blood ant's nest. Soon after, more than 10 figures leaped towards the blood ant's nest. In a large valley, more than 10 students from the general hall were surrounded by more than 30 disciples from the Decimo Sword faction. Decimo Sword faction, must you be so ruthless? A student from the general hall shouted in despair. Nonsense, I already said that if we meet you from the general hall, we will kill without mercy. Kill. More than 30 young experts from the Decimo Sword faction surrounded and killed more than 10 students from the general hall. There was no suspense at all. Not long after, more than 10 corpses appeared in the valley. What bullshit general hall. Just a bunch of mobs. It's a pity that we didn't meet that Tianyan. Otherwise, we could have received Elder Qiu Wuji's reward. A young man with a majestic figure sneered. Senior brother Gao, that Tianyan is lucky. If he were to meet you, he would definitely be trampled under your feet within 10 moves. I wonder which senior brother would be so lucky to meet Tianyan. Yes. However, in my opinion, that Tianyan must have found a place to hide. As long as he hides until the secret realm closes and rushes out at the last moment, he will be safe. It's safe. Even if he didn't die in the blood ant mystic realm, we can still kill him when we get out. At the side, the other disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect flattered him. Senior brother Gao laughed so hard that he couldn't close his mouth. After a while he said, all right, that Tianyan is quite capable. Even if I encounter him, it will take me some effort. It will take me at least a dozen moves. Let's set off now and go to the blood ant's nest. There are great opportunities there. Go. Then, they also headed towards the blood ant nest. In a mountain forest, a shocking sword chi swept across. More than a dozen huge blood ants were cut in half by a single sword chi. Among them, there was even a class 3 LV7 blood ant. A figure appeared. It was Yang Zitian. His eyes were like lightning and his aura was terrifying. With a wave of his hand, a large string of blood ant eggs flew into his hand. After so many days, my cultivation has finally broken through. Now it's time to go to the blood ant nest. I will empty the nest and obtain a large number of blood refining pills to accumulate blood chi. In the future, I will definitely awaken the king bloodline and trample the 6 heroes of the burning sun under my feet. Yang Zitian's eyes were full of arrogance and confidence. Then his figure flashed and he headed towards the blood ant nest. Beside the blood ant nest, Lu Ming, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly raised his eyebrows and opened his eyes. In the distance, more than a dozen figures were rushing towards him. Finally, someone is here. Lu Ming's face broke into a smile. There were a total of 12 people. At first glance, he could tell that they were disciples of the 10 Directions sword sect. In a short while, the 12 of them approached the blood ant nest. That is Tianyan. When the 12 of them saw Tianyan, Their faces changed slightly and they stopped. They did not approach him. Instead, they were a little wary. Among them, there were no strong experts. And they had seen Lu Ming's combat strength. They were no match for him. Tianyun, it turns out that you have been hiding here these days. You really know how to choose a place. No wonder so many disciples of the Decimo Sword sect could not find you. A disciple of the Decimo Sword sect shouted. Hiding here? Lu Ming said with a faint smile on his face. You can say that. Well, cut the crap. Now hand over your storage rings. What? You want us to hand over our storage rings? The 12 disciples of the Decimo Sword sect were stunned. Nonsense. Don't you understand human language? I'm robbing you. Hand over your storage rings and you'll live. Otherwise, you'll have to stay here forever. Lu Ming said coldly. Tianyun, how dare you? We didn't find trouble with you. You actually want to rob our storage rings. Outrageous. The 12 disciples of the Decimo Sword sect were in disbelief. Could it be that Lu Ming was waiting here just to rob them? How dare he do that? Bang. Lu Ming was too lazy to talk nonsense with them. He directly attacked. His figure was like a bolt of lightning, instantly arriving above the 12 people. The demon-suppressing spear shook and turned into 12 spear shadows, blasting towards the 12 people. Tianyun, don't think that we are afraid of you. Let's kill him together. The 12 people roared and attacked together. 12 attacks blasted towards Lu Ming. Bang! Bang! There was a roar and the earth exploded. The 12 people screamed. Half of their bodies were blown into the ground. They vomited blood and looked at Lu Ming in disbelief. Although there were no top geniuses among the 12 of them who comprehended force, they were not ordinary martial artists. However, the 12 of them were as weak as babies in the hands of Lu Ming. They could not resist at all. With just one move, they were blasted half to death. Now Lu Ming's cultivation had reached the 5th level of the martial master realm. The true dragon battle art had broken through to the 4th level. Coupled with the demon-suppressing spear's weight of more than 10,000 kilograms, the power of a casual spear strike was astonishing. It was not something that ordinary people could block. What about now? Are you going to hand over your storage rings or not? Lu Ming looked down at the 12 youths of the Decimo Sword sect. Yes, we will hand them over. The 12 youths shouted and took off the storage rings in their hands and handed them to Lu Ming. Lu Ming put them away with a smile and waved his hand, saying, Get lost. The 12 people struggled out of the ground as if they had been pardoned and staggered into the distance. Lu Ming did not really want to kill all the disciples of the Decimo Sword sect. If necessary, he could kill a small part of them as a deterrent. If he really killed all the disciples of the Decimo Sword sect, the higher-ups of the Decimo Sword sect would probably go crazy and kill him at all costs. This was not what Lu Ming wanted now. After all, he still did not have the strength to fight against the entire Decimo Sword sect. After putting away the 12 storage rings, Lu Ming was about to continue sitting cross-legged. In another direction, 2 figures came over at an extremely fast speed. It's really a case of searching high and low, only to find it by chance. Lu Ming's eyes revealed a cold killing intent. Chapter 228. At this moment, Bai Qi and the green-robed young man were smiling. During this period of time, they had worked together to secretly hunt the blood ants. In addition, both of them were originally the top 10 experts of the Star General Hall, so they had a good harvest. During this period, they even came across an ant nest which they cleared. Moreover, as long as they encountered the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword faction, regardless of their strength, they would stay far away. Therefore, they did not encounter any danger. Haha, the blood ant eggs this time are enough to exchange for a lot of blood refining pills. In the future, we will definitely awaken a powerful second bloodline. At that time, the Star General Hall will belong to the 2 of us. The green-robed young man laughed. That's right. That Tianyun actually wanted to kill me. Unfortunately, he was too arrogant. He actually dared to challenge all the experts of 10 Directions Sword sect. I reckon that he would have been killed by the disciples of 10 Directions Sword sect. Bai Qi's eyes revealed a sinister look. We're almost at the blood ant nest. Let's observe secretly and wait for the others to make a move. We'll wait for the opportunity to collect some blood ant eggs. There's someone in front. As the green-robed young man spoke, he was suddenly stunned and looked ahead. There's someone. Bai Qi also looked over. With one glance, his face changed drastically and he almost wet himself. Tianyan, why aren't you dead yet? Bai Qi let out a sharp scream. How can I die when you're not dead yet? Lu Ming stood up and looked coldly at Bai Qi. Go quickly. Bai Qi's body began to tremble. He let out a low growl and ran back. The green-robed young man's reaction was even faster than Bai Qi's. He had already turned around and ran away. Bai Qi, I've said that I will kill you. Do you think you can run away? Lu Ming smiled faintly. He stepped out and chased after Bai Qi like the wind. Ah! Bai Qi screamed. He felt his legs and stomach trembling. His body was cold and he ran forward with all his strength. Wait for me! Bai Qi shouted. The green-robed young man was running in front of him, and was faster than him. Why would the green-robed youth care about him? Outside the blood ant mystic realm, he had also targeted Lu Ming. Now he was scared to death, so how could he stop? Bai Qi felt a chill run down his spine as his scalp went numb. He felt as if the Grim Reaper was approaching him. Escape! I must escape! I can't die! Bai Qi roared. However, Lu Ming was getting closer and closer to him. At this moment, dozens of figures suddenly rushed over from afar. They were all disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect. Bai Qi's eyes lit up and he was overjoyed. His speed seemed to have increased as he ran towards the 10 Directions Sword Sect with all his might. He shouted, Brothers of the 10 Directions Sword Sect, Tianyun is here, Tianyun is here, he killed your disciples. Regardless of whether Lu Ming had killed him or not, he had to say that Lu Ming had killed him. Only then would he be able to escape. Tianyan. There were more than 30 disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect in front, led by senior brother Gao. At this moment he was stunned. Then he revealed a cold murderous intent and shouted, It's Tianyan, ha ha ha, I finally met him. Immediately, he rushed towards Lu Ming. Haha, senior brother Gao is so lucky. The other disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect laughed and followed. When Lu Ming saw the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect, he was not shocked but happy. He was not in a hurry to chase after Bai Qi and walked forward slowly. Swish! Swish! In a flash, the disciples of the 10 Directions Sword Sect surrounded Lu Ming. Huff! Bai Qi was overjoyed and let out a long breath. Kid, although you are from the Star General Hall, since Tianyan wants to kill you, I have to protect you. Stand still. Senior brother Gao glanced at Bai Qi and ordered. Yes, yes. Bai Qi nodded repeatedly, but he was laughing in his heart. Tianyan, the heavens didn't kill me. Now the one who will die is you. Senior brother Gao stopped looking at Bai Qi and looked at Lu Ming with cold murderous intent. Tianyan, you have been hiding from me for so many days. In the end, you will die in my hands. Remember my name, I am Gao Tianqua. Gao Tianqua, right? Very well, now I announce that this is a robbery. Hand over your storage rings. Lu Ming curled his lips. What? What did you say? Robbery? Gao Tianqua shouted, thinking that he had heard wrongly. Nonsense, hand over your storage rings, or you will stay here forever. Lu Ming said coldly. Haha, Tianyan, I think you are crazy. Now I will wake you up. Gao Tianqua laughed. Dong. Then he took a step forward and the earth rumbled. A strong and heavy aura was emitted from Gao Tianqua's body, like a mountain standing there. The aura of a mountain. Go to hell. A huge sword appeared in Gao Tianqua's hands. He took big strides and charged toward Lu Ming. It was as though a huge mountain was crashing toward Lu Ming. Tianyan is dead. Some disciples of Shifeng Sword Sect sneered. But the next moment, they were all stunned. Boom. A scorching and explosive aura rose from Lu Ming's body. The scorching aura rolled out, and the temperature within 100 meters rose rapidly. Boom. Lu Ming struck with his spear. It was like a meteor falling from the sky, crashing into a huge mountain. The mountain shattered with a bang. Gao Tianqua screamed and his body flew out like a rubber ball. The whole place suddenly quieted down. Everyone was shocked and dumbfounded. Senior brother Gao lost? He was defeated in one move? How is this possible? The disciples of Shifang's sword sect said in a daze. Not far away, Bai Qi's pupils shrank sharply, and his face was full of disbelief. He roared in his heart, "The aura of fire, impossible, impossible." He found it hard to accept. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward, and the aura on his body burst out, pressing toward the disciples of Shifang's sword sect. "Oh no, let's attack together." The disciples of Shifang's sword sect shouted. "Landslide!" Lu Ming whispered, and the demon-suppressing spear shone, condensing a giant spear as thick as a water tank and as long as 100 meters. The giant spear pressed down, and a terrifying shock wave blasted downward and exploded in all directions. Screams and roars sounded. The disciples of Shifang's sword sect were like rubber balls, and they were sent flying and fell everywhere. Only 2 people were still standing there. Bai Qi and the young man in green robe. At this time, Bai Qi's face was pale, and his body was trembling nonstop. His lips were trembling, and his eyes were full of horror. How can he be so strong? How can he be so strong? He kept muttering under his breath. It was simply unbelievable. Originally, when he met the disciples of Shifang's sword sect, he was ecstatic and thought that he was saved. He thought that Lu Ming was dead for sure and couldn't kill him at all. However, he never dreamed that more than 30 disciples of Shifang's sword sect, including a peerless genius who comprehended aura, would be defeated by Lu Ming in a few moves. How could this be? Now let's see who can save you. Lu Ming walked toward Bai Qi step by step with a teasing smile on his face. "No, don't kill me," Bai Qi shouted, unable to summon the courage to resist. "Don't kill you? Haha, you're really naive. Tell me, if you can give me a reason not to kill you, I won't kill you." Chapter 229. Bai Qi could only say the word, "I," and could not continue. Previously, outside the Blood Ant secret realm, he had repeatedly targeted Lu Ming and purposely pushed the blame to Lu Ming for the 10 Direction Sword faction's intention to kill the Star General Hall's disciples. This caused the Star General Hall's disciples to reveal the truth to Lu Ming. Just now, he had instigated the 10 Direction Sword faction disciples to kill Lu Ming. Was there a reason why Lu Ming did not kill him? He could not think of any reason. "Seems like there isn't." "Then die," Lu Ming said coldly. "No, don't kill me." Suddenly, Bai Qi knelt down and cried out, "Tianyan, please spare my dog life. I will do whatever you want me to do in the future. I will be your slave from now on. I will do whatever you want me to do." "Be my slave? Are you worthy?" Lu Ming said indifferently. Boom. A powerful aura burst out from his body and pressed down on Bai Qi and the green-robed youth. Bai Qi felt as though a mountain was pressing down on him, and it became difficult for him to breathe. It's not that easy to kill me." At this moment, the green-robed youth roared and charged at Lu Ming with all his strength. He wanted to trade his life for a chance of survival. But how was that possible? Swoosh! The dazzling spear pierced through the air, and pierced through the green-robed youth's forehead. Blood splattered everywhere and red and white substances splattered all over Bai Qi's face. Bai Qi screamed in horror. At this moment, he felt hopeless and helpless. The green-robed youth was stronger than him, but he was killed by Lu Ming in one move. He did not even have the courage to resist. Don't kill me. I was wrong, I was wrong. I shouldn't have offended you. I was wrong." Bai Qi screamed hysterically. At this moment, he was extremely regretful. He regretted offending Lu Ming. Lu Ming was not someone he could afford to offend. It's all Bai Long's fault. It's all his fault. Why did he have to offend this demon? It's all his fault. Bai Qi screamed in his heart. He blamed everything on Bai Long. If it wasn't for Bai Long, how would he have offended Lu Ming? "You're really a piece of trash. You've dirtied my hands," Lu Ming muttered. Yes, killing me will dirty your hands. Yes, you're right." Bai Qi seemed to have grasped the last life-saving straw and shouted loudly. "However, I won't feel at ease if I don't kill you," Lu Ming whispered again. There was a bone-chilling coldness in his voice. "Don't." Just as Bai Qi was about to shout, a spear light flashed and disappeared, sinking into Bai Qi's glabella. Bai Qi was dead. "Now, it's time for you to hand over your storage rings, right?" Lu Ming glanced at the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect. The disciples of Decimo Sword Sect were horrified. They had just witnessed Lu Ming's terrifying combat strength and ruthless means. However, they were disciples of Decimo Sword Sect. They were usually high and mighty. Now they had to hand over their storage rings. This was simply a great humiliation. Tianyan, Decimo Sword Sect will not let you go if you do this. Someone shouted. It seems that you don't want to hand it over. Then I'll take it myself. Lu Ming sneered. His figure flickered like a ghost. The disciples of Decimo Sword Sect had been seriously injured by Lu Ming just now. They had no strength to resist and their storage rings were taken by Lu Ming. At the same time, Lu Ming grabbed and threw the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect one by one. They fell heavily to the ground. Then the second one was stacked higher and higher like a human pyramid. The last one was Gao Tianque. Lu Ming took off his storage ring and kicked him out. Gao Tianque flew high into the air, stacking on top of more than 30 Shifeng Sword Sect disciples. More than 30 disciples of Decimo Sword Sect were stacked more than 10 meters high. Lu Ming moved and appeared at the highest point. He stepped on Gao Tianque's body and waited. More than 30 disciples of Decimo Sword Sect roared, but it was no use. After a while, Lu Ming raised his head and looked into the distance. Finally, they're here. Lu Ming whispered. In the distance, many figures were leaping and coming here at an extremely fast speed. There were more than 200 people. Decimo Sword Sect hurried the remaining people of Star Hall to this place. In the blood ant nest, the silhouette flickered and soon he arrived in the vicinity. Tianyan, that's Tianyan. That's our senior brothers of Decimo Sword Sect. Damn it, how could they be defeated by Tianyan? Damn it, Tianyan actually did this to them. He deserves to die. There were close to 200 disciples of the Shifeng Sword Sect who witnessed this scene. Their eyes turned red and they exuded a cold, murderous intent. All of them stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent. In another direction, more than 20 disciples of Star General Hall were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. This Tianyan is too domineering, isn't he? Domineering, I think he's courting death. We'd better stay away from him. The disciples of Star General Hall discussed animatedly. Brother Tianyan. Miangcheng was also among them. At this moment, he shouted and rushed toward Lu Ming. Brother Ming, stay away from me and watch the show. Lu Ming smiled at Miangcheng and waved his hand. Miangcheng couldn't help but stop. It seemed that Lu Ming's words had some kind of magical power that he couldn't refuse. Even he didn't realize it. Tianyan, why aren't you moving your smelly feet? Let go of my 10 Directions Sword Faction's senior brothers. Speak, what despicable means did you use to sneak attack the experts of Decimo Sword Sect? Damn it, your behavior will not be enough even if you die 10,000 times. Do you know that? The disciples of Decimo Sword Sect continued to shout. However, Lu Ming couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. After shouting for a while, he slowly stopped. I asked them to hand over their storage rings, but they refused. That's why they ended up like this. Now hand over your storage rings. Otherwise, you'll also end up like them. At this moment, Lu Ming's indifferent voice spread throughout the place. What? The disciples of Decimo Sword Sect were stunned. The disciples of Star General Hall were also stunned. Tianyan was robbing the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect. Crazy, Tianyan is crazy. Everyone shouted in their hearts. Tianyan actually wanted to rob nearly 200 people of Decimo Sword Sect alone. If he wasn't crazy, what was? Tianyu, it seems that you've really gone crazy after hiding for a few days. But no matter what, you're dead today. Among the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect, a tall and thin figure walked out, exuding a powerful aura. Lu Ming recognized that this person was one of the 6 disciples of Decimo Sword Sect who had comprehended the force. Whoosh! Whoosh! In a flash, another 2 young men walked out. Their aura was not weaker than that of the tall and thin young man. The 2 of them had also comprehended the force. The 3 of them stared at Lu Ming with murderous intent, ready to attack at any time. Don't be careless. This person's battle strength is not to be underestimated. You'd better join forces to kill him. Gao Tianque, who was under Lu Ming's feet, shouted. the expressions of the disciples of Decimo Sword Sect changed. They originally thought that Lu Ming had used some despicable means to injure Gao Tianque and the others, but now it seemed that things were not that simple. Was Lu Ming really that strong? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.